Alters presents.
What kind of a year? Could you ever have imagined a year like this? Has this been the happiest year of your life?
Yes. My fans, the public, they want to see me perform.
I'm going to object to that.
Would you defend anyone? Would you defend Charles Manson, Adolf Hitler?
You know, I mean, apart from the little bit of poison I put in your coffee, really, I feel very warmly towards you.
Combat is good for the soul.
Is life like a box of chocolates?
Horrifyingly so. Life is exactly like a box of chocolates.
The 10 most fascinating people of 1994.
We're back with the 10 most fascinating people this year. Like last year, the rules are simple. You must have accomplished something extraordinary over this past year. You must be fascinating, and you must be breathing. No fakes, no felons. The victorious, not the notorious. We talked to a 70-year-old peacemaker you all know and a 17-year-old heartbreaker you all saw. We interview the proud owner of the Dallas Cowboys and a tycoon who seems to own everything else. Both Barbra Streisand and Diane Sawyer sing. Tom Hanks shares a box of chocolates, and the rest are surprises. The biggest surprise of all being the person we have chosen as the most fascinating person of 1994. Hint. It's none of the above. The count begins in a moment. Stay with us.
The 10 most fascinating people of 1994, brought to you by the Discover card, the card with a big payback. And new long-lasting Tylenol extended relief. The pain goes away, the pain stays away.
Our list begins. Every year we add new phrases to our collective vocabulary. This year we learned from the movie Forrest Gump that life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And the career turns of the amazing Tom Hanks are just as unpredictable. There is the recurring image in Forrest Gump of that feather floating in the wind. What's the meaning of that?
That it is our destiny to float like a feather on the breeze.
That life is unexpected?
That life will continuously surprise you and disappoint you and fill you with more love than you've ever been capable of doing, and there's absolutely nothing you can do in order to stop the floating around. There's nothing you can do.
This year, Tom Hanks seemed to effortlessly float from one plum roll to another, dazzling moviegoers with his range and depth.
Thank you, everybody.
In March, Hanks won the Oscar for Best Actor, playing AIDS victim Andrew Beckett in Philadelphia.
Am I being fired?
What did it mean to win the Academy Award as Best Actor this year?
It's everything that it's cracked up to be. You can imagine what it's like.
Thrilling.
It was thrilling. It was, there was no disappointment in it whatsoever.
It would seem an impossible task to top this stunning performance. But he did.
My name's Forrest Gump. People call me Forrest Gump.
Jenny! My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
What's my destiny, Mom?
You're gonna have to figure that out for yourself.
Forrest Gump, the story of the sweet-souled simpleton, destined to intersect with every headline of the past 3 decades, ensured Tom Hanks' destiny as one of the biggest, perhaps the biggest star in Hollywood.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.
And in a stroke of luck, Hanks slashed his Forrest Gump salary in exchange for a percentage of the movie's gross. Some estimate his gamble will earn him $65 million. Forrest Gump. Did you ever think it was going to be this kind of a success?
I read Forrest Gump when we were on our Christmas break from Philadelphia. By the time I read the last page, I was completely broken. I was absolutely bent. And I thought that if we didn't really screw it up, that we could make a movie as good as what was on paper.
You were for many years considered the nice guys. You know, you made the nice guy films. It seems to have turned a corner. People think you can do anything.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. That's so. My plan worked, did it? Ha, ha, ha.
What do you think it is that you offer?
I'm a non-threatening alternative. No one's particularly afraid of me. I don't scare anybody. I'm not that kind of like Elvis persona where suddenly all the women want to have sexual relations in the room, and nor do all the guys want to be my pal and hang around with me. I'm just some sort of a guy that can sit back in the corner and throw good bon mots every now and again.
Fascinating but not mysterious.
Mysteriously fascinating, and yet approachable all at the same time.
Tom, is life like a box of chocolates?
Horrifyingly so. Life is exactly like a box of chocolates.
Okay.
Now, I guess I got to pick one out.
Pick one. You don't
Well, see,
have
now
to
this
eat
is a
it.
cheat because we know this is going to be a safe thing because it comes in tin foil.
Okay,
Right.
put that back.
Okay, I'll put
Take a
that
chance. Take a chance.
back. Now, see, I'd go for the lighter chocolate just because you get in that darker chocolate stuff. Who knows? what's
Who
in there.
knows?
That's almost a guaranteed bitter, kind of sweet kind of thing. But okay, now I'm going to try this one right here. You're not going to have to.
Ah!
Whoa!
A good one? Chocolate all the way through?
It's a mocha kind of tasty thing, a mocha kind of liqueur kind of deal.
So it has a happy ending? You like it? Life is a good box of chocolates?
It's pretty good, Barbara.
But this year, real-life dramas upstaged the movies, and it happened well before O.J. Simpson. Back in January, the country was transfixed when two wealthy young men freely admitted killing their parents in cold blood, and the trial ended in a hung jury. Who could have orchestrated such a thing? Defense attorney Leslie Abramson. Would you defend anyone? Would you defend Charles Manson, Adolf Hitler?
Well, no, I wouldn't defend Adolf Hitler. That's an easy call. Would I have defended Charles Manson? Yes. I'm a defense attorney. That's what I do.
I'm going to object to that answer, Your Honor. This witness has been trying to do this.
For 5 long months, Leslie Abramson dominated the sensational Menendez murder trial, captivating as many as she infuriated.
I didn't ask you what you stated yesterday. I'm asking you, when was it?
Fired with moral outrage, she rolled her eyes, tossed her wild yellow hair, and let her fury be known.
You tell me you don't have a right to say, Mom, stuff it!
To disagree with Leslie Abramson is to step into the eye of the storm.
My question is very simple. Are these words here yours, or did Detective Zoller make them up? I'm not asking for your speculation. Well, I'm asking you to say them. So
I understand you're asking me to say them. I don't choose to say them.
At times, it seemed her courtroom conduct itself was on trial.
And you tend to shake your head negatively when the court rules against you.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And you had better stop doing that, or the court's going to find you in contempt.
Well, the court may be finding me in contempt pretty soon anyway, because I'm finding the court's rulings astonishingly biased.
But one man's pit bull is another's protector. You have called Eric Menendez adorable. You touched his shoulder, patted his hair, and people say, what's her feeling about him? Does she think she's mommy?
Yeah, I think to a large extent I do. I would have been happy to raise Eric Menendez. He wouldn't be in jail right now.
For many, Abramson accomplished the impossible. She humanized two brothers who had masterminded the murder of their wealthy parents behind the gates of their Beverly Hills estate.
My dad had been molesting me.
Abramson saved her client, Eric Menendez, from death row, at least in round 1 of the court trials, by using a controversial line of reasoning, the abuse-excuse defense. It worked.
The court finds that the jury is hopelessly deadlocked and declares a mistrial.
A shocking outcome that left many wondering if having an unhappy childhood meant never having to say you're sorry. This whole business of abuse excuse, the idea that the victim becomes the accused and the accused becomes the victim, you know, a lot of people are having a hard time handling that.
Well, that's because it's mischaracterized. I mean, we were not saying that because these parents were like nightmare parents, your worst notion of parenting, that they deserve to die or that that's an excuse to kill them. We're saying if you terrify people, they may act out of terror.
You defend primarily murderers.
Right.
Why murderers?
I defend people accused of murder. Why I chose to do murder cases, though, is because it was hard. They were the hardest cases, the toughest cases, and the most meaningful. There was so much tragedy had occurred and so much was at stake.
How many murder cases have you had?
Oh, gosh. 50?
How many have been found guilty?
Of murder? Of any degree? 3.
She's been married for the last 17 years to Tim Rutten, a writer for the Los Angeles Times. Abramson is now 51 years old and has a grown daughter from a previous marriage. However, smack in the middle of the Menendez trial, she took a day off to adopt a baby boy, now 1 year old. Don't you think a lot of people would be surprised to see you, like this?
I'm sure a lot of people think I sprung from a test tube,
This woman has maternal feelings?
Yeah, this woman.
This woman picks up a baby?
You know, it's those maternal feelings. My ability, I think, to feel maternal about all sorts of people, to want to take care of them, that I think has partly made me successful in court. I think if you don't care, the jury knows it. There really is good and evil in this world. There really is.
But as a jury of 12 learned this year from Leslie Abramson, it's sometimes hard to know which is which. Next up for Abramson, her memoirs, and of course the retrial of Eric Menendez, probably in the spring of '95. By then we will know if the Dallas Cowboys football team can do it again. When you own the team that has won the Super Bowl 2 years running, most red-blooded Americans would say, don't fix what ain't broke. But the Cowboys aren't America's team, they're Jerry's team.
Roll out, cowboy. Come and get it.
5 years ago, Jerry Jones came to town from Arkansas with a fortune and a dream to bring back the sizzle to the Dallas Cowboys. This former oil man got himself a gusher. The Cowboys are the most valuable sports team in the world. And what a view from the owner's box.
Jerry Jones is a very brilliant businessman.
He is as big a part of our success as anyone.
Jones is as visible as his star players, but his unconventional hands-on ways infuriate many fans in cowboy country.
I've been very aggressive with the Dallas Cowboys. We've taken a lot of risk. I've found the more you're willing to reach out, the more criticism you're going to get.
Damn, you look good with them sunbathers on over.
In football, where there's Jerry, there's controversy. In January, Coach Jimmy Johnson led the Cowboys to a second-in-a-row Super Bowl title. Jones and Johnson were old friends, had been teammates at the University of Arkansas. But this year, a cold war between owner and coach got too hot. And in March, a bomb dropped on Texas Stadium.
We have mutually decided that I would no longer be the head football coach with the Dallas Cowboys.
I had risked everything I ever had to be a part of the future of the Dallas Cowboys. Whether it was real or imagined, I didn't feel like that got the proper respect.
The reeling fans called Jones crazy. His ego was blamed for forcing Johnson out of a chance to make history and win 3 consecutive Super Bowls.
Any decision that's ever created an issue as to my ego has been misinterpreted. It's been in the best interest of winning football games.
How are you doing? Good to see you guys. Hey, guys. All right.
The new coach is Barry Switzer, another old pal from Arkansas football days. Cynics said now Jerry has a whipping boy who will let him call the shots.
No, I don't intend to be calling the plays in the fourth quarter with Barry Switzer.
He doesn't get involved in football, game plans, calling. He doesn't make a decision in the huddle. I could throw his butt out of there if he's in there, and he knows that, and we joke and laugh about that.
At last, they can smile, but not relax. The Cowboys are poised to do it all over again. Holding his breath till Super Bowl Sunday, Jerry Jones may yet show that he was right after all. The pressure is on in the owner's box, but Jerry Jones seems to like it that way. 7 more to go. We're just getting warmed up.
Next, 3 people for whom money is no object. Plus, the most fascinating person of the year. Barbara Walters presents the 10 most fascinating people of 1994. We'll be back in a moment here on ABC.
In the winner's circle this year is a man who recently announced he was starting his own motion picture studio with partners Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen. He probably has enough money to start his own country, but that's not why we chose him. We chose him because he did something he felt was important. This wasn't just a movie. This was personal. Stephen, you have a vivid imagination, but could you ever have imagined a year like this year?
No, never.
This year, Steven Spielberg was a winner. The darling of the critics who had snubbed him for years, he seemed to take every award. The accolades at times were overwhelming.
Verklempt, discuss amongst yourselves.
Smile. His triumph was this year's Best Picture, a film called Schindler's List, which captured 7 Oscars and the hearts and minds of everyone who went to see it. Shot in stark black and white, over 3 hours long, and dealing with the Holocaust, there are those who doubted that the 46-year-old prince of popcorn movies, the emperor of entertainment, could pull it off. The film has now grossed over $300 million. In retrospect, it is logical that Steven Spielberg would be drawn to a character known more for his style than his substance.
That's what I'm good at, not the work, not the work. The presentation.
He does, after all, know what scares us. He has also charmed us, thrilled us, and amazed us more successfully than any other director in motion picture history.
If you head for this line,
Only Spielberg had the clout to get Schindler's List made, and the talent and vision to tell this story in a way that illuminated it for mass audiences and for all time.
I don't feel I've ever made a movie better than Schindler's List, and from my own highly subjective, view of it. But and it's taken a lot for me to make a movie like this, because this was so unlike anything I've ever done before, and I had no real preparation for it except to try to just tell the truth every day on location. I don't really tell the truth with my movies. I'm always, telling my imagination to you. Yeah. I'm communicating that to you.
You bought the book, Schindler's List, over 10 years ago, but couldn't make it. Too young?
Yeah. At the time, of course, I was never going to admit to myself that I was too young.
Yeah.
But I've never told this to anybody before. And forgive me, Thomas Keneally, when you hear this, who wrote the book. But I had trouble getting through the book when I first read it. It was a very thick read for me, and I'm not really a reader.
Did it touch you emotionally?
Very much so.
Did it touch your Jewishness or your lack of Jewishness?
It touched my shame and embarrassment for all those years as a teenager, where I was ashamed of my Jewishness because of my desire to assimilate. And it made me feel that this was wonderful vindication. I wish there were more Oskar Schindlers in the world today, or Bosnia wouldn't be happening.
If you had to give the film to future generations, that was Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
What film?
Well, I would give Schindler's List, and I would give E.T. And I think,
And that would say it all?
I think that would say a lot. I hope not all.
The man you're about to meet also owns a film studio, 20th Century Fox, and much, much more. His enormous communications empire includes everything from satellite companies to some of the biggest newspapers in the world, to Fox Broadcasting and TV Guide. And this year, in a bold and brilliant stroke, he rattled the cages of the big 3 networks.
In the Tampa Bay marketplace is a giant upheaval in broadcasting.
That means big changes for Memphis TV.
WGH Piedmont 8 will cease to be the ABC affiliate.
It's been called the biggest shakeup in broadcast history. More than a dozen stations rated from the traditional 3 networks. NFL football wrenched from CBS for $1.6 billion. A nation channel surfing like never before. The man conquering the broadcast battlefield is Rupert Murdoch.
Combat is good for the soul.
We bought your whole library, didn't we?
Of course, invading new territory is old news to him. The list of acquisitions is staggering. The house that Rupert built is an expansive global empire that reaches every corner of the world.
最近他到底在忙些什么呢？
I met with Rupert Murdoch in a special room he built in his New York headquarters to celebrate his latest conquest, NFL football. The NFL games. It is said that you might lose $100 million on them. Why did you want the NFL so much?
Well, that's nonsense. It was a risk, I suppose, in bidding. I don't think you're a network until you have NFL. Seems to have made us very popular with the viewers and very unpopular with our competitors. And that's a pretty good place to be.
Being the 13th richest man in America is also a pretty good place to be. Forbes magazine estimates his fortune to be worth $4 billion. Of course, he didn't get there without making a few enemies along the way, including critics who accuse him of imposing a sensationalist philosophy that appeals to the lowest common denominator.
I think some people paint me as a vulgarian because we have television shows which are very popular. We have newspapers which are very popular, and certainly don't mind discussing what's in people's lives.
I read that in your early years at university, you had a bust of Lenin in your room, and you were called Red Rupert. Is that true?
That's true.
What changed you?
Life, experience. You know, you get out in the real world, a lot of that gets knocked out of you.
Rupert Murdoch was introduced to the real world when his father, Sir Keith Murdoch, died of a heart attack. He passed on to 21-year-old Rupert the family passion, journalism, when he left him with two struggling Australian newspapers. As founder of News Corp, his dynasty has grown considerably since then, and so have his worries, which now include ratings.
8 to 10, we had a 16 share. You got 23.
Because he is also the chairman and CEO of Fox Broadcasting, a brash young network with hits like Melrose Place and Married with Children. We kept hearing the networks are dead. It's going to be cable. It's going to be satellite. Yet you want to start, and have started, a new network. Why?
Oh, I think there's no doubt the networks are here for forever, probably.
What a relief for me.
I believe all mass media needs to be of inconsequential cost to the customer. The newspapers should be cheap, television should be free.
How would you like to be thought of?
Oh, as someone who's made a difference, who's brought more choice to the world, choice of information, choice of entertainment.
And taken many of us for a joyride on the information highway. I'd like to announce that the next person on our list does not work for Rupert Murdoch. In fact, her lucrative new contract with ABC became front-page headlines this past winter. In recent months, the publicity surrounding our supposed rivalry often took center stage, but it's Diane Sawyer's accomplishments that should have.
You made me ruthless. I didn't want to do it. Ambition drove me to it.
This is the Diane Sawyer you don't often get to see. Funny, playful. Last May, at a Friars Club dinner in my honor, Diane surprised everyone, especially me, with a song. Diane, what kind of a year has this been?
Turbulent, wonderful, unpredictable, and full throttle. The way I like it.
And she's not kidding. As Diane's contract with ABC came close to expiring, every network wanted her. NBC even offered her a news magazine show 4 nights a week. In the end, she decided to stay with ABC for a reported $7 million a year. Now Diane seems to have the perfect life, a huge salary, classic good looks, and a movie director husband, Mike Nichols. But through the years, Diane has led many lives, the pieces of which seem to come from different puzzles. There's the precocious daughter of a Kentucky Republican judge, the beauty queen, winning the title America's Junior Miss, the perky weather girl, the loyal aide to President Richard Nixon, CBS network reporter.
I'm Diane Sawyer.
The first female correspondent on 60 Minutes.
ABC News.
And, of course, the co-anchor with Sam Donaldson on ABC's Primetime Live. Her career has been one of constant movement, taking risks, and all the while keeping that famous composure. We sat down to talk near ABC's headquarters in New York's famous Café des Artistes restaurant. our supposed rivalry. I was just about to say, tell everybody what our relationship is, and I thought you'd say, I hate her. But you know.
Apart from the little bit of poison I put in your coffee, really, I feel very warmly toward you. It's nothing personal. I don't know. I think it's a great plot. Here's my theory. Here's my theory of American life. That we have about 6 great plots. Cinderella is a plot. The Women, the Claire Booth Luce movie in which they're all at each other, that's a plot. And it's very firmly entrenched in our mind.
Female rivalry. Okay.
Female rivalry is entrenched in our mind. The reality is always more interesting, and with women, I think the reality is always so much more companionable, so much more supportive.
The salary, all the publicity about the salary, very familiar to me from a few years back. What does it mean, you think?
I know this is true of you, and I know no one probably will believe it, but it is not the reason we get up in the morning and come to work. It seems out of proportion to me. I mean, I really do think that a great plumber...
Well, we don't like to thank you.
No, right?
What's the biggest misconception about you?
You know me. What do you think it is?
Probably that you're cold. No, too perfect. I'll tell them all the things that I know.
I don't know what you mean by that. It's not cold.
Do you remember your talent in America's Junior Miss pageant?
Yes, I remember my talent. I had a kind of tone poem about the Civil War centennial, and then I sang songs from both sides of the war.
Sing a little something for us.
I mean, I'll do this to make your career, but I really wouldn't do it otherwise. Peas, 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 eating goober peas. Goodness, how delicious, eating goober peas. And you're wondering why I won, aren't you?
Thanks, pal. If you're counting, that's 6 down and 4 to go.
Next, 3 people the world watched center stage, plus the most fascinating person of the year. The 10 most fascinating people of 1994 will continue in a moment.
What was the hottest concert ticket this year? The Rolling Stones? The Eagles? Well, if you had money and patience, you could have bought a ticket to a phenomenon. One woman, alone on stage, singing her heart out like never before. Well, almost never. June 17, 1967. New York, Central Park. Barbra Streisand performs live. No one realized that 27 years would pass before her devoted fans would get the chance to see her perform live again. She kicked off her tour on New Year's Eve, and her New Year's resolution seemed to be out with the old Barbara, in with the new.
I've been in the wings too long. All that's in the past. Now I'm standing center stage. I've come home at last.
1994 has been a year of reinventing herself. More reality, less fantasy. In addition to returning to the stage, she has established herself as a political force, embracing the titles Friend of Bill and Friend of Hillary. She has also donated her Malibu home to the state of California. I actually toured the home in 1985, and virtually everything I saw went on the auction block this year at Christie's in New York. Why are you selling all of these things that you spent years and years collecting? I mean, here's Christie's auction house. It's all here, your home.
I'm trying to simplify my life.
Happy days are here again. The skies above.
But for most of us, her most prized possession is her voice, so recognizable, so uniquely her own, the quality still intact, many feel even improving with age.
Happy days are here again.
I've been thinking and talking about performing again for the last couple of years. I think it's a challenge. You know, I think my fans, the public, they want to see me perform. It's almost like something they feel I withhold from them, and in a way, maybe I was. I've also given up a certain part of my perfectionism.
But have you changed in your day-to-day life? Are you easier on yourself? I mean, you're so hard on yourself, and you're sometimes very hard on others in your desire to have it just right.
Let me say this, I have a long way to go. I have a lot to learn.
Can you ignore the criticism now? Have you gotten to that point in your own comfort?
Probably no. I go through periods, you know? I go through periods where I can laugh at it and so forth, and then periods where I can't, where I think it's just plain mean.
And yet you're still coming out of that shell?
Yeah. Because you have to accept life, you know, for what it is. I mean, the pain and the joy, the hate, the love. It's amazing. My musical director came to see me, and he hands me a book called Your Life is Your Message. It's talked about changing the world. Like, we cannot change the world. It's such an overwhelming feat. But yet, by changing ourselves, in this, each of us in a very small way, we change the world.
Some people have said our next guest does the Lord's work. Well, this year, some said he also did the president's work. At this rate, children everywhere may someday say, when I grow up, I want to be an ex-president.
Good evening. In a few days, I will lay down my official responsibilities in this office to take up once more the only title in our democracy superior to that of president, the title of citizen.
Others before him had left this office with more glory. For Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, it was not to be. Although he had engineered an impressive peace treaty in the Middle East, his term was overshadowed by gas lines, runaway inflation, the Iranian hostage crisis. Defeated and diminished, one of the younger survivors of the White House parted ways with a presidency singled out for its ineffectiveness. But Jimmy Carter left with his faith in redemption. 14 years have passed, and he has spent them making sure defeat is not his legacy. In doing so, Jimmy Carter has found his reputation born again. How do you see your role these days?
My role is one of filling vacuums. Rose and I have been in, we counted up the other day, 105 different countries. We go into those countries and we offer our services to resolve conflicts. And quite often we get our foot in the door just by immunizing their children, or by teaching them how to grow more corn, or by eradicating a terrible disease in their villages.
He's pounded nails for the homeless and guarded the votes of the people in new and struggling democracies. Few noticed the work of this silent ambassador, but this year, when he initiated an 11th-hour peace mission with oppressive leaders in North Korea and Haiti, the whole world was watching. Why do they trust you?
Well, one aspect of it is the stature that I have, having been the president of the greatest nation in the world. Basically, they trust me to tell the truth and to keep my word if I promise something.
Not satisfied building a mere presidential library, he and his partner Rosalind have built instead an idea, the Carter Center, a monument to conflict resolution. In his post-White House years, he seems to have left the mark that eluded his presidency and brought the role of ex-president to a new state of grace. Some people have called you a political missionary.
Well, I think I'm more of a missionary than I'm a politician. I never have been intrigued with politics. I never have really liked the political world.
There is a great deal of praise for your accomplishments, but there is also some criticism that it's difficult for a sitting president when President Carter can go in there and solve things, and that you're competing with the president or the Secretary of State. Yes. I mean, you're aware of this.
I am, of course. I see it in the news. I hear it. Sometimes I'm surprised by it. But I might say that in the two most highly publicized events in Haiti and in North Korea, in both cases, my trip was thoroughly approved by the President of the United States, not necessarily by the State Department. And I had very clear concepts of what our American goals were and very tight restraints on what flexibility I had. But in both cases, I accurately represented my instructions from the President.
President Carter, it has often been written that you are a better ex-president than you were a president.
I never have felt uncomfortable about what we did in the White House, but I have to say that the post-presidential years have been much more gratifying and challenging and unpredictable and adventurous than we ever had dreamed they would be.
President Carter's next new adventure is his own poetry in a soon-to-be-published book of reflections entitled Always a Reckoning. Now a test. Quickly, name the figure skater who won the gold at the Olympics this year. Nancy Kerrigan? Tonya Harding? The winner was a Ukrainian orphan girl with a name few Americans could remember. This is Oksana Baiul's brave attempt to give an interview entirely in English, because my Russian is a little rusty. What was it like to win the gold medal?
I was proud of myself. My coach Galina say me every day, Oksana, you're a woman. You skate like woman. You skate like swan.
Like a swan?
Yes.
The odds were against her from the moment of her birth, but Oksana Baiul is 95 pounds of iron will, a tiny princess who makes her own fairy tales come true. Where does your strength come from?
I have so many memories about my mom, about my family.
The memories keep you going?
Yes.
Born in a bleak Ukrainian factory town, tragedy first struck at age 2 when Oksana's father walked out on her and her mother. A year later, the chubby 3-year-old took up skating so that she could lose weight in the hopes of someday becoming a ballerina. And then her world collapsed when her mother died of cancer when Oksana was just 13. She was left with only her skating coach, and then he was gone, immigrating to Canada. Oksana was alone in the world. A savior came in Galina Zmeyevskaya, who had coached her son-in-law, Viktor Petrenko, to a gold medal in 1992. At Petrenko's urging, she took Oksana as student and daughter. Oksana practiced night and day in antiquated facilities, often having to clear the ice with a shovel herself. And as if she needed yet another obstacle, a day before the Olympic finals, a collision left her with stitches in her leg, back pain, and doubting if she could even skate. She made it. She sailed onto the ice right after a flawless Nancy Kerrigan. Oksana was part showgirl, part ballerina, and all champion. Her joyous routine dazzled the crowd and the judges. Do you remember crying?
Yes, I remember.
When something like that happened, that was so wonderful, did you think of your mother?
Yes. And I talked with her.
You talked with her?
Yeah. I told Mom, I skate for you.
I'm sure she knew it. I'm sure she knew that. The world has now opened up for this girl that nobody seemed to want only 3 years ago. Hard times in the Ukraine led her in September to America, where the road is paved with possibilities. Do you like to shop? Mm-hmm. More than skate? Mm-hmm. In the local mall, she could be a typical American teenager, shopping for makeup and clothes that were luxuries back home. When not on tour, she lives in suburban Connecticut with her new family, Coach Galina, Victor Petrenko, and his wife Nina. And she works 6 hours a day in a brand new $7.5 million skating rink, built partially with Oksana and Victor Petrenko's enormous earning potential in mind. Has this been the happiest year of your life?
Yes.
You deserve some happiness, no?
Yeah.
Oksana will most likely compete again in the 1998 Olympics. But don't get your hopes up, America. She'll still be skating for her homeland, the Ukraine.
Next, our interview with the most fascinating person of 1994.
We chose our most fascinating person of 1994 back in April and stuck to it, although there were other strong candidates. But what could top those pictures of determined black South Africans able to vote for the first time, lining up for days to participate in a new democracy? When the votes were counted, a 76-year-old former political prisoner was president, and we were all witness to history. So we went to South Africa, where they now have a new national anthem, a new flag, and a new leader. This year, freedom was triumphant in South Africa, and its name was Nelson Mandela.
1994 has been the realization of a long-cherished dream for the overwhelming majority of our people who have lived under the most brutal system of racial oppression in the history of this country, if not of the world.
Mandela, Mandela. Mandela, Mandela, Mandela.
Throughout his struggle, Mandela has never wavered in his commitment to a single goal: one man, one vote.
Here we are to honor you, Mandela.
On April 27th of this year, that goal became a reality as people lined up for days just to cast a vote for Nelson Mandela.
It was exciting to be able to exercise a right which in my 76 years was denied to me.
Much has been denied to Mandela, who, born to be a chief, spent almost half of his life in jail for fighting for his rights and the rights of his people. After 27.5 years behind bars, the South African government freed its most famous prisoner in 1990. Had he been a vindictive man, he could have spearheaded a bloody revolution. But Mandela is a man of peace.
South Africa belongs to all its people, black and white. The time has come for us to forget the past.
The prisoner is now the president. At his inauguration in May, saluted by his former captives, the symbols of the old order paid homage to the new.
I am tremendously impressed by the readiness of South Africans to forget the past and to work together to build this great country of ours.
Now Mandela faces what is perhaps his greatest challenge. He must forge a new union in South Africa, placate those for whom change has come too fast, and calm those for whom it cannot come quickly enough. Mandela has said the struggle is his life, and for the most fascinating person of 1994, the struggle continues.
Barbara Walters presents The 10 Most Fascinating People of 1994, brought to you by Lincoln Mercury and the complete line of Lincoln luxury automobiles.
A personal note. When I started doing specials at ABC nearly 20 years ago, my first guests were Barbra Streisand and then President-elect Jimmy Carter. It's always nice to have a little continuity in your life. To all of our guests, thank you for making 1994 more fascinating. And here's to next year. Good night.
For a printed transcript of this program, please call Journal Graphics at 1-800-ALL-NEWS.
This has been a special presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.